For example, if there was the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, right? So I would also very strategically pick out from my background, which is in psychology. I'm already a master's in it.
Okay.
I would write a different perspective with that. I think people are mostly always stuck in these templates of social, political, economic only. But I think you should go all out. Go into literature, go into psychology, go into sociology, go into sciences, and that's how I would pick out examples. I mean, I feel
Hmm.
like I had to believe my gut instinct on essays because writing is something that needs to be a little more unique. Otherwise, everyone's churning
Hmm.
the same thing. Again, I am a good reader, but I haven't read as extensively as I would like to during preparation. So my strategy would be, if I have best case studies or
Hmm.
anything that I would find in the newspaper, I would thematically write those things down.
So we'll be
Right.
having you on Thursday evening,
Right.
and just give a brief about what topic are you going to touch. Uski thodi backstory. People who are going to attend the webinar, what are they going to take away from it, and
Um,
something on that.
right. So the webinar that I would be a part of, that's on essay writing, and I have given two mains and I've consistently scored well in the essays. And mostly, from what I understand, people really struggle with philosophical essays, and that is one thing that I did not struggle with as much because I kind of had a kind of a template in my mind as to with what approach I wanted to go in. And
Okay.
it's safe to say that I think I only improved my score. So I got a 123 previously and a 140. Either times I
Okay.
took on very tough philosophical essays, which seem very tough, but it's actually how quickly you can simplify it and how quickly you can make it dramatic. And a lot
Can you
of
give a
people,
sneak peek? Can you give a sneak peek into it? Like, how
um,
would you like pick
so
any topic? Yeah, some kind
for
of a sneak.
example, for example, if there was the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, right? So I would also very strategically pick out from my background, which is in psychology. I'm already a master's in it.
Okay.
I would write a different perspective with that. I think people are mostly always stuck in these templates of social, political, economic only. But I think you should go all out. Go into literature, go into psychology, go into sociology, go into sciences, and that's how I would pick out examples. Um, Always start with a quotation, yes, but fill in as many quotations in a sync. So if you are
Mhm.
talking about, say, political empowerment, have something extremely relevant as a quote to that, than just a random quote that comes from nowhere. And
Okay.
I would always think that you have to write an essay as a speech, as if you are trying to explain something very passionately to the person reading it. That's what made I the difference between these two mains that I wrote. Um, you really need to know what you're passionately trying to convey, because otherwise information anyone can read, and GS is there for that. But I think
Hmm.
that's what makes essays really different, is you need to have that sort of an impact, or that um that really attractive factor that, okay, I'm not writing an essay for information, but I'm writing
Hmm.
an essay to convince somebody, to persuade someone as to why my argument makes sense. So
Okay.
I think a lot of people are not very familiar with writing dramatically, and it does not require anyone to be great in English or something like that. But it's just about the thought process, right? If I were to talk to my friend, how I would communicate to them is how I would want to write on the paper, but a little more professionally.
Hmm. So
Mostly,
in the webinar, I hope we're going to see a few topics live, like how your thought
um,
process was, and
yeah. So unfortunately, unlike how everybody does this whole approach to UPSC, my mocks were very limited for my writtens, because
okay.
I was I had paucity of time, but always used to treat a mock as a experimentation zone where I
Hmm.
would write what I think is intuitive, and then I'll get feedback on it. And if it's wrong, I just didn't do that. That's the approach that I took. I didn't keep writing mocks for the sake of it, because I also knew that's how you capitalize on time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, I
Hmm.
would definitely show, like, I have certain topics in mind from the previous years only, and
Okay.
I write the essay. and then I would demonstrate it because my mocks did absolutely not worth showing, I think.
No, I didn't mean the mocks. I meant ki we'll have some
Yeah,
live
yeah, yeah,
topics where
definitely,
you will
definitely,
show your framework.
definitely.
Okay, interesting point. Were
Yeah,
your mocks reflecting your actual scores? Were the people checking your mocks
absolutely not.
not?
Absolutely not. Like, and I don't think my main score was a surprise to me because I I feel that okay, so I was doing masters along with giving this attempt, and 3 months I had a trimester system, and I was doing. I gave mains and then I wrote my trimester papers. So I was very short on time anyway. But the thing
Hmm.
that I realized is for a person like me, I need to know what mistakes I'm making. And
Hmm.
any sort of feedback given on the side was something, initially it would be a little sad. Like I would score 80, 70, 80 in my GS2 papers, GS1 papers, GS1 even worse, because
Oh.
I wasn't able to get it. Like I come from an arts background, so there's a style of writing which I think was a mistake even in my previous mains. I did not write
Okay.
any talks before that. But
Okay.
this time I only made it a point to know where am I going wrong, because and like increasing my speed, practicing it. Like I would keep 6 to 7 minute timers and then try to write one answer. Because even if whole papers weren't possible, one answer, you keep writing it. So what that told me was like how to condense information when you're under stress. You don't have to put yourself under pressure and then see, I'm getting 70 marks, I can't do mains at all.
Hmm.
Instead, what it was is that if they're telling you you're not adding something, how can you quickly think on those things? So I would make sticky notes and like when I'm revising, make those pointers. So I condensed information like that. But my mocks did not reflect. I mean, I did not imagine GS1, especially geography, is something I'm not comfortable with. But towards the end, I understood that you have to make very rough maps, even if you're not good at it, even if it looks like a really ugly map, if I may say, use that word, but you just go and make it. Then
But
make
the
some.
essay mocks, the mocks for essay, were they reflecting the score or they were also
Um, they were around 50, 60-ish, so it wasn't bad per se. Like in one mock, like I would get a 50 or a 60. And but then I would again, I feel like my creativity was very uh, throttled when it came to essays or people checking my essays, because they would say, don't be so like, don't take on such dramatic ways. Or dramatic as in, but then I would write something like, but if women were not this, you would not have a Draupadi Murmu in as a president who's also coming from a tribal background. Write
yeah.
impactful sentences where this is simplify that language. You don't have to be so, while reading it, it came across as stern. But I think that's what made a difference. I mean, I feel
Hmm.
like I had to believe my gut instinct on essays, because writing is something that needs to be a little more unique. Otherwise, everyone's churning
Hmm.
the same thing. The
Makes sense.
same.
And will we talk about frameworks? So I get it that you're from an arts background, so and I'm assuming you're a good reader, and so you could arm up all those finesse and put them into the essay. But will we get some frameworks for the students so that at least they have some buckets to think in through?
Right. So again, I am a good reader, but I haven't read as extensively as I would like to during preparation. So my strategy would be, if I have best case studies or
Hmm.
anything that I would find in the newspaper, I would thematically write those things down. Say,
Okay.
for example, recently political empowerment had that statement that I think around 40% of the seats were reserved for women by Congress in the UP elections. Something as simple as that is a very good tale to tell.
Hmm.
That is how I would record information, and not necessarily from just that. That's the thing. I think there's so much fear about essay that you have to be an excellent writer, but that's not it. You just need to have your thoughts as if you're speaking in a cohesive story. So
Hmm.
it's just about how you present the most basic and banal information that exists. It could be something extremely random, but you can put it in a way. So template wise, I think I can help out in the sense that templates of, I think, flow is what is required in an essay. A lot of times flows are missing. So when you're adding on to that, like I mean, example wise, it's if you're talking about political empowerment, you end the question with how do you tackle something like a sarpanch pati then you go
Hmm.
on talking about, okay, no, there's a social dimension to it. But how would that
Hmm.
social freedom come about? Because there's an economic dimension to it. So
Hmm.
asking questions towards the end, you give a very impactful example, then you ask a question towards the end. Okay, so if you're talking about a sarpanch in a village, a female sarpanch in a village who's done really well, but how is
Hmm.
she able to do that? It is because there is a social backing that the lady had. She probably did her MBA because she had a supportive family or something like that. Eventually,
Hmm.
but what does it boil? Does everybody have access to that? No. So, as the government, it is our job to be providing equal opportunity or access so that even people who don't come from well-to-do families, they have that baseline to start dreaming on. And you have to use very colorful, not colorful, but like passionate terms to write an essay. That otherwise it's a long GS answer. So template
Right.
wise, I think there I might be able to help out a little bit.
I think what would be interesting, no, is that if you are able to share some of these interesting anecdotes which you jotted down, which then you marshaled in, or
Right,
seemingly bold or dramatic stuff, as you said,
right,
which worked for you, which a lot
right,
of us might just shy away from because of a particular narrative being peddled in the industry, coaching
right,
industry. I think
right,
that would be refreshing for a lot of folks who have a natural flair for writing the way you like. So that would be
right,
very helpful. And great, we'll have a working webinar of sorts in that
right,
way. And then towards the end, we'll have people ask questions if they have specific ones.
right.
Awesome. Cool. So this is it. I think
Yeah.
we'll see you on Thursday.
I'm
And yeah,
Yeah, I just did never, I never used to venture into factual essays because I think that's where people make a lot of, they don't capitalize on the marks that you can get. If at all you have something relatively vague as a term, I think people shy away from that so much that they just don't know how well you could do
yeah,
picking all those things out. So I think that's one thing also that people really need to know is that if you just understand whatever you make of a philosophic any sort of a line, whatever you make of it, you just need to think a little more and write that. So it's not very complicated, but yeah.
cool. So we'll see the working session.
Right,
Uh, Asha, so and then I'll try to be host there as well. I'll try
right,
to be a host with you. So I'll ask relevant questions if and when, and I'll select a few from the audience. So it'll be
right,
a good, fun 1 hour for both of us.
right.
Awesome.